It's time we get you guys caught up to speed. Update stuff is a brewing. Brawl news. So in a video that we made recently here on the channel 3 days ago specifically, we had mentioned that the Brawloween Brawl Talks normally come out sooner than other Brawl Talks. And we predicted that it's going to be airing on Saturday, the 21st of October, which is 2 days from now. So of course, with that in mind, whenever a Brawl Talk comes out, a day before we get a ton of juicy sneak peeks to go over and speculate upon, which I cover in its entirety as methodically as I can, break everything down here on the channel, every single update. So of course, be sure to subscribe to the channel for that, and of course, the other update stuff that's really revving up here at the minute. But while we have one day before those crazy sneak peeks, I want to catch you guys up to speed so we're kind of on the same page going into these crazy sneak peeks and things like that on what we already know is coming in the update, so we're not surprised or confused about certain elements from these sneak peeks coming out tomorrow. So to start things off, we already have a pretty dang good idea or a likely potential as to what the season 21 theme is going to be sneak peeked to us in the last Brawl Talk when Frank was going over the roadmap for the future, the brand new one. Here on this frame, we see very close to the release of the hypercharges, the very next one on this track is a carnival. Matching up really nicely with the vibes that we have with Star Park in the Brawl Stars lore / universe, I got a feeling that this update, if this theme holds true, we're gonna get, you know, a carnival or a circus theme with skins to match, an environment to match, and I think since it makes a lot of sense with Star Park, we could very well be dealing with a bit of lore. I think helping to actually confirm that this very well could be the season of 21, we remember back to one of the most recent podcasts that the Brawl Stars dev team gave us some really interesting sneak peeks in.
So
why ruin the
maybe
surprise?
lore, maybe there's something to do with lore.
Maybe.
Wait, not in the next update, so like but there's something related with lore, but not in the next update.
I think if there's going to be a fair bit of lore in this next update, it would match very nicely with a carnival or a circus theme, kind of pertaining to the whole vibe of Star Park being a theme park filled with rides and all that crazy stuff. A carnival or a circus would match really nicely. So with a potential theme or setting of season 21, I next want to get into the elements that should be within that update that's pretty much so confirmed coming out before we get into more speculative things, which of course we already covered one major implementation coming out in the next updates, and that is somewhat of a Club League 2.0. Now what this specifically entails, we're not quite sure. All that we do know is that it is a pretty dang significant change, so much so that the dev team had to warn us to make sure to be within a club before this next update comes out, or kind of prepping us for this bigger change coming. We have some fun theories, or I guess just more context given to us from the most recent podcast that there will be a big effort within your club gunning for something together.
You want
Could have the word Omega in it.
It could.
That's all I'll say.
But maybe you can say it's a chance of getting lots of star drops in one go.
Yeah, we're working on a new feature. It's more social oriented and kind of a group goal to kind of fill up this thing.
And actually, because you said already in the roadmap that we are working on club improvements.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's already.
We feel like Club League is super complex today.
It's also
and,
grindy.
like easy to understand group activity. That's also a lot of fun. And the reward for it, you know, it's this really animal container.
Sounds pretty dang interesting if you ask me. The most popular theory I've been seeing inside the community for this Club League 2.0 is that you and your club mates are going to work together to unlock this Omega something. What we think is it's going to be an Omega star drop. It definitely has to be big, knowing that it needs to replace the progression that we got from the Club League shop, right? Because the club coins are being removed in this next update. So it's got to be big. Whatever we're working together for in the club, it's got to be enough progression to match that. Another thing that we can assume is going to be coming out in this next update is more hypercharges. I'm assuming at least 6, but they did also toy around with the idea, I believe, in the most recent podcast that they very well could be releasing more than just 6 at a time each update. So it's not going to take like years and years for every brawler to get one. So whether that's the case for this next update, we'll have to wait and see, but at least we know more hypercharges are on their way in the next update. But then what about the really interesting speculative things that I've been seeing brewing inside of the community that I think are super interesting? Of course, when it comes to speculation, we can't be 100% certain that these things are coming, but I think it's important to keep it in the back of your mind for some interesting potential. We know the dev team always does this types of things. They plant little seeds for us to find, where a lot of the time we don't even end up finding the seeds that they planted at all. Frank has said that in a podcast before. There's things that we haven't discovered yet in past posts, which is so dang crazy. But kind of going in chronological order here, we have a post celebrating the Moon Festival skins, but then there in the background of this cityscape, we have Brawlywood Haunted Haven. Seeing that this time around, we didn't get a one-for-one explanation from the dev team in a podcast of what the Brawlers families are going to be, which we've kind of grown accustomed to for these updates. We are left to speculate upon them. And as you guys know, we have two Brawler families here. We have the Brawlywood Trio and the Haunted Haven Trio, which only has one member in it. So for the Brawlywood Trio, we have Gray as well as Lola. And then for the Haunted Haven Trio, we only have Willow. So I found it really interesting, and I really enjoyed the theory or the speculation behind this, that this is leaking the two Brawlers coming out in this next update families they're going to be fitting in. Whether the chromatic is going to be in the Brawlywood or the chromatic is going to be in the Haunted Haven, we don't know quite yet, but I found it quite interesting to say the least. But then moving along to more speculation or potential Easter eggs, and this one's big. I don't know how to feel about it, but I have seen a few people discuss it, and it's piqued my interest, I'll say. So we have this photo announcing the release of the Mecha Edgar skin, but once again, in the top right hand corner of the screen, we have the future is chroma. Now, a lot of people are thinking that this is related to the chromatic rarity that we have in Brawl Stars. Of course, we have other chroma stuff in the game like chroma credits, but I think it makes a lot of sense that it's in regards to the rarity in Brawl Stars because we have colors right next to it, right? We have a yellow representing, I would say, a legendary rarity. We have blue, super rare, and epic being the purple, the final one. Now, the speculation is huge, and the theory behind this would really shake Brawl Stars up quite a lot, which leads me to be a bit skeptical about it, but I just want to bring it up with all of you. As you guys know, we have this kind of dilemma going on in Brawl Stars with the amount of chromatic brawlers that we have. Now, I don't know specifically if the dev team views this as an issue or if it even is a problem here in the game, but with each brawler that's released, I feel like the chromatic rarity is like diminished, or it doesn't seem as noteworthy. It was this rarity that was more interesting than a legendary, but nowadays we get a new chromatic every single update. So maybe one day, and I don't know if this potentially is representing that, but maybe they'll disband the chromatic brawlers to different rarities, which is why we see like a legendary color, a super rare color, and an epic color here. This could be like hinting at the fact that that might come around in this update. Again, very skeptical about this one because it's a huge change. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. But then moving along to our last piece of bigger speculation, and to be quite honest, I can't really wrap my head around what it is or what it's meaning here specifically, but I know it's kind of fitting into that ballpark of Easter eggs. The dev team is trying to show us something here to get us to speculate. So I would love to pass this one off to you. What do you guys think is going on here? First things first, it's pretty dang interesting what's going on with Colt and Shelly here specifically. They are, I think, either removing or putting back the J on Jailhouse here, but with the removal of the J, it's saying all house. Don't know what that means. It's hard to speculate on something so broad, right? But it's interesting nonetheless and important to point out. But then where things are getting really crazy, or the source of a lot of speculation, is what's going on down here. We have some shadows in the distance. Now, really, if you're trying to speculate on what this means, it's hard to come to a definitive conclusion, so much so that it's hard for me to even try to approach it or take a spin at it, because I got a feeling I'd be incredibly wrong about it. But we really only have silhouettes to go off of. What I think is going down here, if I'm going to take a crack at it, is people ended up escaping from the jailhouse, right? And that's them in the distance. But I feel like there's just more to this. It could be like Sam, Belle, Pearl, and Chuck, which were in that animation, but it's hard to be certain about. But as we know, when it comes to updates, it seems like the dev team likes to tell stories that lead into the next update. So like in this Season 20, some piece or element leads us into Season 21 narratively, which has happened for the last couple updates here. So maybe the people escaping from the jailhouse will find themselves in a carnival or something like that, leading us to the theme of Season 21, which I'm assuming if that is the case, we'll be getting some context on that tomorrow. But we'll have to wait and see. It's pretty dang interesting. I'd love to hear what you guys are having to think about this as well. But that's pretty much so it for crazy speculation and stuff like that coming out. So next, I want to get straight away into the interesting stuff coming from the Chinese servers that might be getting us some context for update implementations this time around. So this is the best quality I can come up with, but this was posted to announce interesting stuff coming out for the Chinese server in Brawl Stars. Of course, I can't read too much of this, but we can gauge quite a lot from it based on the actual context, right? The things coming out. So confirmed in the most recent podcast, we know that the Chinese version of Brawl Stars is kind of taking a turn away from development and like specifically what is happening in our version of Brawl Stars. Up until this point, it's been pretty much so one for one, with a few exceptions of interesting offers coming out that are different from our version. But we were given context from Frank that the Chinese version is now developing specific stuff that is going to be different from our version, and a lot of it can be seen here. So it looks like there's this really interesting like outer space theme going on for some reason. I don't know why they're celebrating it, but it's even live in game. We got this outer space spike, and I believe that is a space mortis skin potentially. Now that stuff is the things that I would assume would change about the Chinese version of Brawl Stars. Specific skins coming out, and Frank even said that if there are really popular skins coming out for the Chinese version of Brawl Stars, they would consider releasing it in our version. But what is really piquing my interest are the actual content-based stuff coming out here, specifically these cosmetic items. We have wings on this Mecha Mortis skin here, and we can see halos on these brawlers, and we can even see it down there. Again, the quality is pretty dang low, but it looks like there are different articles of halos and wings that you can attach to different brawlers here. It's really, really interesting. Now, again, this is kind of a weird implementation, but when it comes to content like this is the very first time we have significantly diverted away from the Chinese version of Brawl Stars, and I don't know if it would divert away this much. I got a feeling that this has a very high potential to actually come to the game, this halo wings cosmetic thing. It looks like it's already come out in the Chinese version of Brawl Stars. We can see some crazy stuff going on over here. Again, we'll have to wait and see if this is going to be one for one or certain elements of this is coming to our side or our game, but we can see it plain as day from this user here looking through these cosmetics and things, new implementations. It's quite strange. Look at all this. And there's even some really interesting features going on here that is game changing, if you ask me. Super game changing. We see some footage of what the brawler would look like at a, 3D scale or like a different perspective. It's cool. And we can even see some footage of these individuals playing with this brand new skin. We got the halo above the spike. What do you guys think? It's really interesting. Looks like there's some rarities attached to it. I'm not sure what's going down here. So once again, of course, this is a very first, so it's hard to be 100% certain that things like this can come to the game, but this is a great learning experience. Once this new update comes out and we see if anything resembles or anything is similar to what we're seeing from this footage coming in our game, we might be able to kind of draw upon certain developments from the Chinese servers to give us context as to what's coming out in the update. So again, can't be certain, but make sure to keep it in mind. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, man, everything is shaping up to being very, very interesting with this next update. Once again, be sure to stay tuned for tomorrow's episode when we break down the biggest sneak peeks that we get before the next update, whenever an update rolls around. So we'll be breaking that down and all the other update content and sneak peeks once we're able to do so. So subscribe up. I'm sure it's going to be a good time. But yeah, you guys, thanks for watching. Have a phenomenal rest of your day. Peace out.